What's going on, everybody? Andrew Leduc, aka Mr. Mallard, here on Divots and Pivots, part of That Sports Podcast Network, formerly known as Fantasy Sports Corporation. New look, same awesome analyst and host for you. It's Tuesday night. We're here to talk golf, as always. Bud will be joining us shortly, but let's get into my opening thought to start off, and then Bud joins us here. We'll get into his opening thought, and he joins us right now, sliding in just in time. Bud Copeland, how are you this evening, sir? Have you recovered from the festivities of this weekend? No, me neither. Are you meaning to not talk? Just mime to me? Cool. All right. So my opening thought then, look, the waste management this weekend happened, and it happened in a lot of different ways. Look,
hi.
Now you're here. Okay.
Hey, what's happening, everyone?
Could you not hear me before?
No, I couldn't. Did you not? Were you not clued in by the smooth entrance that just happened?
I was. That's why I started talking with my opening thought, because I was picking up what you were throwing down, but I was still confused along the way. But I'm
glad somebody was. I was just fucking lost. I'm so sorry. We got to work on the interns. These technical glitches that are throwing me off are really screwing up my vibe. Anyways, back to your open. Good to see you. So morale is medium right now. We're gonna It's only gonna go up. It's Tiger Week. So back to your opening thought. Is that a Buffalo Bills hat, or is that a parrot on your hat?
No, that is a UMass Lowell Riverhawks hat.
Oh, go Hawks! Shit, I just couldn't tell. Bad lighting. All right, back to your opening thoughts. What I missed? What is your opening thought tonight, sir?
You missed nothing yet. I was only just setting up the opening thought. My opening thought is.
Hold on. Were you teeing it up?
I was teeing it up. Thank you for the quotes on that too. Yes, I was teeing up my opening thought, which obviously revolves around the waste management for me, but mostly around Zach Johnson. We're going to get more to Zach Johnson later on the show when we do break down some of the waste management. But the big temper tantrum that he threw this week, it brought up a thought to me that I think fans were so harsh on him coming out after that, and really let him have it, because there's obviously still some residual energy, if you say, and feelings in the fan base of golf after what happened with the Ryder Cup and his leadership and the absolute, I guess, I don't want to say goose egg, because they kind of made something of it at the end on Sunday, but it was still leading up to that. There was no competition. And Zach Johnson obviously has fallen out of favor of the fans. And the fact that he chooses the one loose party weekend tournament of the year to sit there and complain about fans talking and chirping him, and then he gets mad after he enters the tee box, calls them out for being too loud, tells them not to talk, and then he goes out there and rips his shot. I forget if it was wide right or wide left, but either way, he missed the fairway. And fair enough, the fans gave it to him, and that's when he tells them to basically shut up and that this has got out of hand and stop talking. Like, just don't come, Zach Johnson. If that's gonna be your attitude at the funnest tournament of the year, do not come. We don't want you there. Stay at home, bitch about it on your couch, or hell, watch the live. I'm sure you wouldn't enjoy that either. I don't know. Just, it's not here for you. If that's not for you, then don't come. It's that simple. You don't need to be at that tournament. It's not a signature event. You're not going to be penalized. Take the week off. That's how I feel.
Throwing shots in there by bringing up. Go home and watch live.
Just don't bring the mood down. Everyone's having fun. Don't bring the mood down. And we're gonna get more into the stuff that went on at the tournament this weekend that did bring people's mood down, but we didn't need Zach Johnson to add to it.
And you know something that actually brought people's moods up at the waste management, and this is my opening thought here. It involves one of my new favorite. I think I played him maybe once in a previous season, because the name was not fully foreign to me, but Jimmy Hard K. I think it's Knos.
Yeah, I heard them say his name on the broadcast.
Knos or Knaus.
Yeah, so I thought it was Knaus. I heard them say Knos, and I wasn't sure which one was going to be right.
It's Knos. But so Jimmy Hard K. And that's his handle at Jimmy Hard K. And
Yeah.
I'm here for it. So Jim Knaus, 12, 13 years on tour, something like that. We do spend most of our time focusing on the 1%, or, the top of the top, because that's where the competition is. That's where the do or die. That's where the real drama comes in. But then there's 130 other guys each week, 70 or 80 other guys some weeks. But when we're talking about just kind of the grinders out there, the folks who make a living doing this, but they don't necessarily win. Jimmy Hard K was kind of one of those guys. And he started playing pro golf 12, 13 years ago. His first PGA Tour start was in 2017 at the Waste Management Open. He Monday qualified into it. And after, some injuries and some back and forth, and you kind of get to that point of how much longer is this financially responsible in the long run for my family, etc. And his kids are growing up. He wants to be home a little bit more. So he was calling it quits, and he Monday qualified into this last week's Waste Management Open to kind of bookend his career with Monday qualifiers into the same tournament. He's a local guy, and he's going to go work for Ping. So it's not like he's going anywhere. Yep. He's going to be, they gave him some title, club engineer consultant or whatnot. But Jimmy Hard K, I think you're going to see a lot more of him, because I think Ping's going to see what they've got in this kind of personality. And you see what's gone on with Colton Oast, who's made a very big splash in the podcast, in the booth, and on the bag for Taylor Montgomery this weekend. That was fun to watch. You see, Smiley Kaufman, Kevin Kisner, the accessibility to the game from the former players. You see it in Pat McAfee and, these other sports. Now that we've seen what social media can do to let us in and connect, and there's no more of these filters, these corporate borders put up to say these are the players that we want representing our sport and no one else. Now it's, every player is their own brand. Well, Jimmy Hard K, I think by now, because he's only going to go up from here, but we wish him well from the Divots and Pivots family to Hard K Nation. We salute you. There's my opening thoughts. You are right, though. I think we are going to get back to this Zach Johnson thing here in a little bit. But first things first, come on, let's get this out of the way. Did you watch the Super Bowl? What were your thoughts, etc.? I mean, I think, first of all, shout out Chef Brian Duffy for taking the time and playing in our sandbox and, helping us out and having a little fun with us. That was probably, I'd say, the highlight of my Super Bowl Sunday, was getting some one-on-one time with Chef Brian Duffy, and to pick his brain a little bit about smoking barbecue and his new spices out there, and knives. Get yourself some knives.
Yeah, and what we learned, if they're not from the 1800s, then you ain't real. Also, you learned what sous vide was, and really got the lesson on sous vide, so that was fun to watch. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we interviewed Chef Brian Duffy. He's been on multiple networks, multiple shows, most notably probably Bar Rescue. But we interviewed him during our network's Super Bowl special show this past Sunday. So go over there, check it out. You can still find it on YouTube and watch that. But yeah, I watched the Super Bowl. Of course, I watched the Super Bowl. It broke records for the most people watching the Super Bowl. So of course, I was one of them. Look, overall, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was an entertaining game. There was action. There was unexpected amount of defense, which I thought was fun. The halftime show I thought was a top tier halftime show. I enjoyed it. Maybe that's just because we're in this age bracket now where they're catering to our nostalgia. Whatever, I'm here for it. So I was a big fan. The one thing I do want to say about the Super Bowl, that I'm seeing a lot of social media posts, a lot of TikToks of people talking about how the game was rigged, and how at the end of the game in overtime, how San Francisco didn't get it right, because if the refs didn't get it right, I saw this one thing, if the refs called an illegal man downfield, it would have been a 10-second runoff and the game would have been over, and the 49ers would have won. Before you go making stupid comments on social media, know the rules. In the Super Bowl and in the playoffs, that was just the first quarter of overtime. The fact that there was 10 seconds left when they had the ball for that last drive and the clock was stopped, when that time ran out, all they were going to be doing was flipping sides of the field. That was not going to be the end of the game if they didn't score a touchdown there and the time ran out. Super Bowl and playoff overtime is different, folks. So once again, I have to say this all the time, quit your bitching. Yes, I was cheering for the 49ers. I didn't want the Chiefs to win, but it was a good game, and they won according to the rules. It wasn't rigged. Shut up. Great game.
Man, you're fiery today, and you're going a little Zach Johnson on the amateur NFL watcher like myself. No, I didn't think it was rigged. I love conspiracy hat, tinfoil hat type shit. I haven't seen that one yet. I dozed off midway through the third. You're right. Halftime show was fire. Welcome to the era of millennial mom halftime shows. We're going to be back we're going to be back in the club for the next 15 to 20 years. And I'm like you, I'm here for it. I'm kind of bummed that I fell asleep, but then again, Cooper Rose had me up pretty early Sunday morning for no reason other than she's 3. So she wanted to wake up at 3. You brought this up, and actually, truth gun to your head, the Dunkies commercial, leader in the clubhouse, we all agree it won the Super Bowl, especially if you're in New England. And if you disagree, either move or surrender your card. Other than the Dunkin's commercial, did any of them jump out to you? Were any of them memorable? Did you have one other one that you really liked?
So I won't lie, most of them I actually found kind of to be very unmemorable. It was kind of a wash of just I'd gone to the days of the Budweiser frogs, and it's like the days of those crazy Dorito commercials we got for a few years in a row that were just over the top from a production standpoint on the compared to other commercials. Like those days are gone. So the Dunk Kings one was awesome. Plus the subsequent subsequent videos that have come out since then, the last 2 days on TikTok, these little clips they've shown have been awesome too. My biggest takeaway from the commercials, and I laughed about this the whole Super Bowl because they came on a couple times, is anybody else just learning that Temu is not pronounced Temu, is pronounced Temu? Because that was my biggest takeaway from the commercials. Like I learned, I saw the commercial for the first time. I went, wait, it's pronounced Temu? Because everyone's always called it Temu. The fuck is Temu?
All right, we've already spent too much time on the Super Bowl. What the hell is Temu?
It's like a garbage product, like cheap app. They take faux products.
It's a garbage product?
No, they take very cheap versions of name brand products and they sell them at very cheap prices, kind of thing. Like it's a discount online store.
Got it.
And I'm probably it's probably a little bit better than I'm selling it for, but it seems like a waste of money.
It's probably a data farm. You probably use it and get your identity stolen. Allegedly. I heard that somewhere. Don't at me, bro. We don't have lawyers yet.
What about you though? What do you got for commercials?
Beyonce, she lights it up for me. Her breaking the internet with the Verizon thing.
That was a good one.
My roommate's a huge Queen Bee fan, and she's all upset because Beyonce's new songs that she teased in the commercial, and now she's kind of rolling out our country. Beyonce kind of went a little country folkish.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
Yeah, she's from Houston, I think. That's why she references Houston, Texas, and all the music that you listen to of hers. I thought that the Beyonce commercial really did it for me. But the point you made at the beginning, and then we actually will get into some golf because this is allegedly a golf show. But as you pointed out, it was the Super Bowl, and this. I keep reading these articles, most watched, thing of all time, et cetera, whatever. Is that impressive when you consider also the growth of the population? I want somebody smarter than me, or at least who's had more time to look at it. Tell me, as a percentage of the population, is this as big of a deal? Because 50 years ago, we didn't have 330 million people in the country that we know of. I'm just kidding. No, they but you think about it, like the population's grown too, because the number wasn't so astronomical like it was a moon landing thing, but it was bigger than anything else, and it was bigger than the moon landing according to some people, because I guess with the moon landing there's like a 125 to 150 million person window there. But it was the perfect intersection of culture and sport. And I disagree on the Anheuser-Busch stuff. I think what they did, I think they did 2 commercials really. The pull at your heartstrings, let's get the animals involved, not the Budweiser frogs. I do agree.
Oh, true. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
So they did the Budweiser, let's tug at the heartstrings. And then they did this. They basically went full 180 from their Dylan Mulvaney, Budweiser or Bud Light sponsored can, where they kind of went culturally. Let's find everybody who's on the other end of this, and let's see if we can swing the
Yeah.
pendulum back a little bit, because they took a hit in the market after that campaign. There was a lot of controversy around it. And when I say controversy, I mean on the internets, not in like real world, other than the fact that they lost a lot of money. So I think that's what they were kind of doing. You saw Dana White in there. You saw they have kind of this new, the Bud Light Wish guy. And, could you ask for anything more broy than 80s hair and this and beer everywhere? And so they kind of went back to their, I think, their foundational audience, which is, I think, what gave it the, kind of no big deal, back to normal. And you are right. I think it was a very much kind of back to normal-ish feeling of a Super Bowl, which was kind of nice. I kind of appreciated. There were definitely some I would like politically charged or activists, kind of driven ads, but everybody's got money to spend and it's perfectly fine. I don't feel like it was overwhelming. I feel like there was a balance to it. So well done, Universe. You put on a good Super Bowl. While they were out in Las Vegas, Liv was having a golf tournament. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Friday, I guess they had some kind of mix up. They don't have normally they're Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They don't have a Friday TV partner. They have the CW for Saturday and Sunday, but the CW was like, oh, wait, you decided to have a tournament Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I guess we'll air your stuff 2 hours delayed in prime time. And then DJ won.
Does CW have a prime time?
Yes, it was called Dawson's Creek. You watch your mouth. Then Dustin Johnson wins this tournament, and there's a couple of things out of here. As a golf fan, it was interesting to hear his thoughts about, like, I didn't really take it seriously. It sounds like he signed his check, took a year off mentally, and then decided, I want to start winning again. I say look out for DJ at Augusta if he really has got that killer mentality again. But going into the final round, there was this big, you got DJ, Bryson, and John Rahm, 1, 2, and 3 going into the final round. And then John Rahm and Bryson just no show. They both shoot over par. Rombo, I don't know what we're going to get out of him, because mixed with his comments. So he comes out, his team wins their first event. Big work. It's kind of like the adrenaline rush. Then reality sets in. He starts answering some questions. He starts thinking about, well, of course I missed these events, and it was tough to sit at home. I live in that area. We talk about, he's the defending champion. It was, and this is in the more, Riviera, and this is one of the quintessential, you talk about what Liv doesn't have with gravitas and longevity, which, hey, if they're here in 65 years, I'm sure guys will be talking about Mayakoba and let's go down there. And that's, I'm joking. I don't fucking think they're going that far.
They're not going that far. But I'm saying if they were, then we have to. But they're not.
But maybe the grass isn't always greener. And I think he reminds himself. He's like, I made a business decision. But it's kind of fun. It's kind of like Cam Smith, after missing the Players Championship, and he was like, yeah, I was. Oh yeah, that's right. They're playing that this week. I don't know. That was just an observation. I think it's one of for the people out there chirping that Liv is a true competitor in the sense of it's going to take over where the PGA Tour is doing. No, you're right. It's influencing it, but by how much? Okay, bye, John. You got your money, and life's great over there. We can't find you anymore. But then we get what we got at the Waste Management. We get Charlie Hoffman, Nick Taylor coming down to the wire in a playoff, and you see how much it means to these guys. And, I will, to use the SEC thing, it just means more on the PGA Tour. So Liv, DJ wins in Vegas. We'll see them again. I think in the beginning of March, they're over in Jeddah. So no, we won't see them. It'll be on at like 3 a.m.
Well,
maybe.
I won't be watching, that's for sure.
We actually won't see Liv again. They do Jeddah and then somewhere else, I think Indonesia maybe. And then they come back the week before the Masters. They're playing down in Miami.
Yep. Yeah, because it wasn't at the Masters last year. They Cam Smith was like playing at a course down the road or something like that because he wanted it was at the Masters.
No, Cam Smith's in the Masters. It was the Players because the Players are still owned. But that's the PGA Tour's.
That's right. Yeah, I confused the two there. I remember there was one down there that he was like, I just need to be near it, and But yeah, so look, let's get into the Waste Management thing because I'm sick of talking Liv already. They bore me. The Waste Management was, as you alluded to, anything but boring. this week. I mean, we saw Sahith Theegala coming out with a hot start, leading the first. I think it was both of the first 2 days, but either way, he was up there. He unfortunately crumbled in the final round, which we've seen before. It's a shame. He's going to get there eventually. Like, he just has to. He's got the game for it. He just isn't able to put it together fully yet. He'll get there, but I thought this tournament still had a lot of, I guess, power-packed excitement. Sure, for the casual golfer who was looking at the leaderboard, I'm sure there was some disappointment of, oh, like, where are the names we recognize? Because there was no like Thomas was kind of hanging out up there. Scheffler was hanging out up there, obviously. But for the most part, like, the guys that were up there, I know, like, you and I, we know, like, the fact that we saw Charlie Hoffman up there all weekend, that was exciting because Charlie Hoffman is Mr. Waste Management. He's sponsored by him all his career. He always plays well at this tournament and then pretty much kind of disappears for the rest of the year. But it made me bring up the question, looking at the leaderboard, a guy like Nick Taylor wins, who finished second last year. Charlie Hoffman, who, like I just said, has the history. Sahith Theegala did well here last year too. Like, there's these guys that it feels like, you know, Scottsdale, Waste Management, Phoenix Open, that this is like the horse for the course, quote unquote, tournament. Like, it's always like the same. Like, if you're good at this tournament, like, you're good at this tournament no matter what every year. And it's almost like this little club you're in. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that Charlie Hoffman really only showing up at this tournament because that makes it fun. I want to see him get that win. I want to see him succeed because he's a fun guy to watch. He's like an obscure guy on the tour to watch, and I enjoy that. I get why casual fans might not enjoy it, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the shenanigans of the weekend. There was some disappointments with that. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But did you still find the leaderboard and the excitement of it up to par with past Waste Managements?
Nicely done with up to par there. I did, because you look at the top 10 and you're right. Charlie Hoffman. So Charlie Hoffman would fall in that category of, you have to have been even a casual golf watcher for a while, or you just have to be kind of a wonk and have been around. He's one of those guys, like, you know, lifetime top 50 money winner, he's won a handful of times, but you're right. He's famous for being sponsored by the Waste Management. He was up there, but Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Theegala, Spieth, Kurt Kitayama, Cam Young, Adam Scott, Justin Thomas. In that top 10, top 12, I'd say there's 4 or 5 marquee names.
Sure.
Granted, you are missing, John Rahm, probably Phil Mickelson would probably have been playing in this still, a couple years later. But this tournament is evolving into, it's finding its own space. I find value in it, obviously, because of the rowdiness, and there's kind of the aura around it. And I don't think they're going to get rid of that. We'll get to we'll get to Karen in a minute, but the hype is still there, to the point where you had guys like Max Homa saying, when I retire, this is where you're going to find me.
Yeah.
It's almost the West Coast TPC Sawgrass kind of vibe, where I said that about PGA West, but PGA West is the PGA of America. The TPC is the tour network, a little different. So I think it's going to be fine. The issues that it had this week, and if you didn't watch or you didn't hear about it, essentially because of all these weather delays, they got nailed with. I mean, that is one thing. You don't ever see these guys. They were wearing beanies and sweaters, and it was cold and it was wet and it was awful, and they had to suspend play. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself as a tournament in an organization where other places maybe not such big a deal, because you're used to opening the gates early every day, whatever. But now you have to try to square away the people who have that second round badge coming in to watch there's a good chunk of that second round left, and they paid for the product. So we want to let them in, but we also got to just get this third round going. Nobody stopped to think, do the numbers add up?
Yeah.
How many single day people? Yeah. And so in a perfect world, I don't know exactly how they would do it at the PGA Tour, but I mean, shooting from the hip here, you think to yourself, sometimes if you have enough time, you clear the grounds. You just say, like, everybody find the nearest exit. If you're you almost have that in place. Right. And they come back in. You've seen that done, at doubleheaders for baseball games or stuff like that. If that wasn't an option, then I don't know. Then this is just a real big shit sandwich, because that overcrowding is what caused it to shut down, and the alcohol sales being shut off. It wasn't just because it was too rowdy. They promote it as the party.
And it didn't seem any more rowdy than normal. Like, that's where I think Zach Johnson is out of his mind here. Like, you knew what you signed up for. Like, suck it up. But I think what you said about the whole, like, clear the field to come back and clear the grounds, come back in. Like, unfortunately, I think because of this is like the one tournament where you definitely probably can't do that, because at that point where they'd be clearing the ground, let's be honest, the amount of people we've seen the videos that are already hammered, like they're not that would turn into a shit show. Like having a bunch of drunk people trying to find their way back out, get back in line, and come back in, that's an absolute nightmare. They obviously got it wrong still, because they had to get shut down by the town and the fire marshal, because they were, I want to say I saw 500,000, they were 500,000 people on the course on Saturday. And I saw videos of bartenders who were working and said, yeah, around 1:30 is when they basically came up and said no more alcohol sales, and that was it. And I saw people complaining about it, making videos. Oh, this is supposed to be the part. Like, look, it's unfortunate. I get it. It sucks. You paid for this experience and whatnot. But shit happens. Weather happens, and it's unfortunate. But the party didn't stop. I think the fans still got a party.
No.
And I think it was still a success in the end, especially with the way that we finished with the playoff holes. I thought it ended perfectly. It ended with just as much excitement, and Zach Johnson can take his ball and go home.
The only way it could have ended better is if Charlie Hoffman wins that, for the Waste Management. That place would have just absolutely gone nuts. But Nick Taylor is still kind of a fan favorite, emerging fan favorite after winning the Canadian Open last year in dramatic fashion. And his come from behind victory there was a lot of people, myself included, who thought Hoffman had this in the bag, but Taylor had the holes left.
He was up 3 or 4, like at one point in the back nine.
So there's two things here. Real quick, we'll put this issue to bed. You're right. Logistically, we all agree it was just an overcrowded nightmare, and that's why they had to shut off the alcohol sales, whatever. So then there's this other crowd led by Zach Johnson and Billy Ho. Billy Horschel, I think, is fair. Telling, I even say, if you're going to be here, there is a baseline of, what you expect of this tournament, which is shut the fuck up while I hit. That's the only thing they're going to ask outside of the 16th, where you might have Ricky Fowler. So I understand Billy Horschel. And I'm not, and I don't listen. Two things can be true at the same time. These fans can be getting out of line, and we can basically expect a little bit more out of Zach Johnson, where it's like, the tournament's not for you then, man. And when he said, like, I've been coming here 20 years and it's getting worse and worse every year, it's always been bad, then why do you keep coming? Nobody's holding a gun to your head. So,
well, and his biggest thing was that he said the tournament has been inappropriate or crossed the line ever since I've been here. Like, so that, honestly, that to me says that he's speaking more to what the fans are saying. And part of the joy of this tournament is that it's open to the fans to heckle the golfers. And I'm sorry, most of the golfers, when they're around the course, they welcome it. They think it's fun. They get, like, it's just part of this tournament.
And I'll admit that there probably are. I mean, and if he is talking about the few folks out there who maybe really are just wildly inappropriate,
sure,
there is a line that no matter where you are, it is just like, stop being an asshole. But I think what really his comments uncovered for me was a fucking awful way to structure that sentence. What I got from his comments was that his time at this tournament is past. If it's and you know what, that's why it's not going to have a signature event status anymore, because that's too much of the tour saying we expect you to be there and endure this. And I think, Waste Management's already coming out saying, hey, we're gonna make changes next year. I have seen statistics in the last 3 years. There's been a steady, consistent rise, both in the number of cop calls and the arrests and all that kind of stuff. So it'll balance out. I don't think you can lose the party vibe, and I don't think you're going to take a drastic turn. I think you're going to see a public campaign, and I think you're going to see maybe some of the, listen, you have Post Malone doing an opening concert. You have people chugging,
touch on that.
So you do set it up like that. So that's why the money's not going to be there. But I think this is going to be what they want to see, something like the John Deere turn into. We always shit on the John Deere and the Barracuda and the Barbasol. I think what they're going to say is, if you want to continue to be on the PGA Tour rotation, as we continue to have to maybe squeeze this thing tighter and tighter, we're going to expect the kind of performance or return we get from the Waste Management. Now, Zach Johnson, stop going to the Waste Management. Billy Horschel, his comments were fine. Yeah, I don't mind. I really don't mind at all. It doesn't even have to be at the Waste Management if a golfer.
He does keep finding ways to insert himself into complaining, though. Billy Horschel, over the last couple of years, he's half the time he's valid, but he does a lot of complaining.
What do you expect out of a Florida Gator? But so I mean, Billy Ho, I'm with him on that comment. That's fine.
Sure.
Everybody, shut the f up. That's all we ask for. As soon as he swings, if you want to scream mashed potatoes or Baba Booey or whatever stupid shit you think your buddies are gonna love you for screaming, have at it. Zach, maybe this isn't your tournament. Like, don't come here. And I mean that in all sincerity. Now, he has every right to say what he wants to say, express his feelings, but I hope it's. I don't like when people take that stance of like, I expect more. We can do better.
Exactly.
No, instead, how about you take a little bit of ownership and be like, you know what? Maybe, it's not my vibe anymore. Because there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, you pointed out, of people who they live for this week. And this is one of those things that, like, you can't, if the tour is forced to either back Captain Johnson or the WM, sorry, Cap. And no offense, but it's not like he's a huge draw or fan favorite. Excellent golfer, Hall of Famer, major winner a couple times over, deserves it. But I mean, you're not moving the needle. So I mean, maybe there's a little bit of I don't know if there's resentment or what it might be. But the whole and by the way, those guys are probably being total assholes. And I don't.
Oh,
and
sure
that doesn't make my socks roll up and down either. I don't get why people honestly do draw joy from hurling that kind of like any kind of like deep cuts. It's like, what are you doing? Like, shut the fuck up.
Well, like I said, I think those guys specifically hurled some deep cuts at him after he hit his bad shot because he entered the tee box already chirping at the fans. You know what I mean? So they were like, okay, fine, you want to play, let's play. and then he didn't live up to it.
How long until there's the remember in Happy Gilmore when Shooter McGavin just does not like it? How long till that comparison starts coming out there? All right, let's talk to Underdog and then we'll move back to the West Coast.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
And let's get into Riviera because it's the Genesis. We get to see Tiger for the first time, and I'm curious because I want to know. You asked a question here, and I don't know if you're asking the question or if you have the answer and you're trying to set me up. Asking who's on the bag. Are you referring to who's on the bag for Tiger, or where are you going with that question?
Why is my camera frozen, first of all?
So I was worried I was just talking to myself for a second because I saw you not moving anymore, but I'm glad to see you still there.
Talk amongst yourself. I don't understand what's going on. I'm going to have to leave the show and come back. I'll see you in a minute. And I'm talking about who's on Tiger's bag this week. It's Matt Kuchar's old caddy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been around the block a time or two, but enjoy yourself for a second.
I will. And he just disappears real fast. I will enjoy myself. And let's start. And I know Bud's going to want to have his own thoughts on Sunday Red because we saw that drop as well yesterday. And what came out with that is that you can start buying that clothing line on May 1st, it looks like. I will say we talked about the Sunday Red logo and branding weeks ago. It's growing on me a little bit. And it looks like Bud is coming back. It's growing on me a little bit. I'm still not fully sold on the Sunday Red look, but we'll see how it looks in action this week as Tiger's wearing it for the first time. But we'll get Bud's comments on Sunday Red as well. But I do want to get back to you who's on the bag. So Matt Kuchar's old caddy, you said.
Sorry, Woods and Dumont. Yeah. So, anyways, Matt Kuchar's old caddy, Lance Bennett. Sorry.
There we go.
He's worked for Bill Haas, Zach Johnson, but most notably Matt Kuchar. Right now, he's caddying for a guy, and I'm going to butcher this name. It's a Dumont de Chassart or Chassart.
Oh, so he just played this past week. I saw his name pop up on this one of his shots. He was on. They showed one of his shots one point up on the left hand corner. They showed his name, and I went, look at this guy's name. Like who is this? I never heard of him before. Had you heard of him before?
Yeah, he was a good college golfer out of somewhere in Illinois, I want to say.
Okay.
It might have been Illinois, but I guess he and Tiger share the same management agency. Tiger's only going to be playing again, probably one tournament a month, throughout the
Yeah.
year, if he can keep that pace. And so maybe the stars just aligned. And obviously, this being a signature event, Dumont, I guess is his first name, is not in the field. And so he asked if he could borrow Lance. And there we have it. Now, you dove right into it. I'm glad you did. Sunday Red.
Sunday Red.
Folks, if you missed it, then you're under a rock. If you're watching this show or listening to it, like my boy Adam Howley is, shout out Andy. Did this just freeze on me again? What's going on?
It just froze on you again. We'll see if it comes back. But also shout out to Nate in the chat, who is right. He says it's no Acorn Hills when it comes to the Sunday Red comparison to the Acorn Hills
I'm
line.
over it.
So definitely get over there and check it out. But you're back. You're back. You're moving.
Oh my God. But shout out Andy. I know that I'm going to end up owning a hat, a t-shirt. The hoodie's actually kind of nice. I just can't get over the fact that they went with the logo they went with. If you're on social media and you're following at Divots and Pivots or at This Buds For You, you saw in the story earlier, all I can see is the old Slazenger logo from the 80s.
Yep.
And that's when a friend of mine reached out, and she works for Saucony. Is that how we say it? Saucony? I don't know. I'm not a New Englander. But she's a shoe engineer. And shout out Andrea. She was like, check out Le Tiger or Le Tigre brand of clothing. Sure enough, almost an identical ripoff as well.
Oh, really?
And then now I'm seeing the shark from Greg. So this like simplicity of the horizontal leaping, the puma cat, is jumping in that same direction. I don't know if.
Oh my God, it is. The Le Tigre is so close to it. Jeez.
Right. And I don't know if I'm disappointed that they went that direction, because now it's just another logo that looks like that versus we could have done other things or whatever. But obviously they listen, we're a couple of schmucks talking about golf on a Tuesday night. These people probably did market tests and focus groups. So we're just one voice out of many. I'm getting all this out of the way because I do admit I'm probably going to end up buying a piece of the gear at some point. Nate's right. It is no Acorn Hills. And if you haven't seen the new spring drops, Lavender is in. Check it out.
Yes.
But I dig the vibe of sun and day and red, and especially if you're a golf fan, then you know who Tiger is and the Sunday Red and the whole of that. So I get it. I expected more. And by the way, on one of the polos, they've got the logo like right under the three buttons. It's not on the chest like every other shirt known to mankind. It's right at the bottom, and I can't do it. Somebody already pointed out that it's borderline looks like some Kirkland signature gear that you would see at Costco. So I'm probably going to grab a hoodie and a hat because I'm a sucker for hoodies and hats. But that's enough Sunday Red.
Yeah. I will say I did also like the hoodie where it's like the more faded out, larger logo.
Black on black.
Yeah, like I liked that one. Yeah. That one I could do.
Black on black on black.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. But let's get into more like the actual specifics of this week. It's the Genesis I almost said open. The Genesis Invitational. Smaller field because it's an invitational. And a storied course, as you mentioned, Riviera. We're looking at 7,300 yards. Kikuya? Did I say Kikuya right?
Yes, you did.
Kikuya fairways and Poa Green. So you got to love this. This is another course where I think it's all right to look a little extra at course history and tournament history. Guys who, as we just said, horse for the course with the waste management. I feel like this is one of those courses that you can find you want to find guys who have had past success because it seems to bleed into current success as well. Do you feel the same way when you look at this course?
Not really. I'm actually going to go a different direction. And that's because I think this is such a tough test, as you pointed out. Yes, the Kikuya. That's what we're going to hear a lot of that. Kikuya. But it's kind of a sticky grass too, so not a lot of ground game. So if it does get wet, that's going to make this thing even longer. And it looks like we might get some precipitation Saturday into Sunday. Can these guys get a freaking break? I don't think so.
No, not recently.
I don't necessarily think it's horse for course. I think that this is such a test of, it's nicknamed Hogan's Alley. Famously, Ben Hogan won back here when it was the LA Open, back when it wasn't open before it was an invitational. He won back, and then he won when the US Open was here later on that year. Jack famously, this was his first pro tournament. Tiger, his first PGA Tour event when he was a teenager was at the LA Open. Jack and Tiger, neither of them won here, which is just mind-boggling when you consider that between the two of them, neither one of them could tackle Riviera. And I say all this because it is one of the toughest tests that they face, which is also why it's one of their favorites. There's a lot of risk reward, drivable par fours, short par five right off the rip, that opening tee shot, picturesque, downhill, kind of a narrow fairway. There's out of bounds left, trees to the right. You have to be hitting it straight. You have to be hitting it under control, and you have to be putting well. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but this really is a course where you can't fuck around too much. The only time you're really going to see guys, I think, get super loose is on number 10, the drivable par four, which as the game has evolved and people's mentality has shifted, there's a nice bunker, kind of like 280 out, nice little landing zone that back in the day stopped these guys from going after it all the time. But again, these guys are, flying driving irons 305 now. And so now the game is just bomb it up there, even if you're long and left, because the scoring average is lower from that position. So it's a fun course, but you just have to be under control because that aforementioned Kikuya really will screw you up in the rough. This is almost kind of like one of those US Open feelings where if you're in the rough and because of how long this course is, it's not going to be a full stroke penalty, but it's a half stroke because you're not going to be able to get at some of these pins the way you normally would if it was sitting nice and pretty in the middle of one of those Kikuya fairways. So I think form over history.
Okay, that's fine. I know when I was looking at it, it seems just like there's this small grouping of guys over the past 3 or 4 years that seem to be there no matter what. Your Max Homa, your Victor Hovland, your Colin Morikawa. Now, obviously, these are also just world-class golfers, big names.
Like those are studs.
I know.
You just proved my point.
But there's also guys.
Actually, you didn't.
I didn't really, but it just feels like there's guys here that show up. Someone like Russell Henley has shown up in the past who doesn't show up a ton. I know he missed the cut last year, but before that he's kind of not a horse for the course because he wasn't really threatening to win, but he was always kind of around and hanging out in that upper middle of the pack. So we'll see what it brings. But let's talk about the stats that will help get these guys there. Because it looks like just looking at what we put down, we're somewhat on a similar path, but not fully aligned. I took a page out of your book this week. I kept it to 3 for a few reasons. I kept it to 3. I know I've had some success beating you so far this year, but I figured why not? It's early in the season. Let's try to mix things up and see if we can find the best combo. So I'm going strokes gained approach. I'm going strokes gained putting. I'm going strokes gained short game because as you mentioned with this grass, I think that some guys are gonna get in just a little bit of trouble, just miss the mark, or maybe it's not going to roll quite the way they think it's going to roll, or it's going to play a little bit longer. So I think there's going to be some guys having hit some crafty shots in that 100 and in range and around the greens where they're going to have to get creative. So I like that being a factor this week. And there's obviously putting and approaches, 2 of my staples. What about you?
Duh. My 2 staples as well: strokes gained putting, and strokes gained ball striking, because it takes your approach. I do the ball striking. You're right. But my 3rd this week is fairways gained. Because again, I think that whoever's in good form and whoever's putting themselves into position to score is going to do the best this week. Again, cliches, but they're cliches for a reason. So ball striking, fairways gained, and putting, and that actually spit out some pretty interesting results. I got some guys up in the top of my model that I'm going to fade, as they would say on some of the other more fancy shows, but they're familiar to you. So I'm interested to get into this whenever you are for our emergency 9.
Let's do it now then. Wrong. Flip it. Keep it in. We've had our weekly intern mistake. Keep it in. That's how we roll here. Our emergency.
Stop saying keep it in.
You're the only one that's going there. The emergency 9. We're going to get into it. As always, starting down on 9. I'm gonna go first, and I'll lead you in, and then you can give your middle guys first. So number 9 for me, I'm gonna start with a guy I played last week. Hideki Matsuyama, once again, he didn't come through as I actually thought he had a chance of winning this past week. I think he got off to a bit of a slower start and just kind of hung around. So it didn't turn out, but I think he's still primed to be playing good at this course this week. So Hideki Matsuyama, number 9. Number 8, I have Luke List, and number 7, I have Taylor Montgomery. Now, I will say what does kind of prove your point, the Taylor Montgomery one is a bit more of a form pick for me, so I'm not fully going all in on horse for the course, but Taylor Montgomery's playing pretty well right now. He just finished T39 this past weekend, T39 at Pebble Beach, T13 at the Farmers, so like he's in good form for Taylor Montgomery, levels of expectations, I guess. I'm trying to say it not mean. Does that make sense?
Not at all.
So that's yes, go for it.
All right, 9, 8, 7, and I will say that with my picks this week, start that over. These aren't picks. Actually, they are picks of a different style. But 9, 8, and 7, 5 of my 9 are from the numbers or trusting the model, and then the other 4 are just kind of gut plays. People that you want to play here or because of current form. So, number 9, Justin Thomas, current form. Our boy is back. Number 8, Max Homa. This is one of his places. This is kind of a second home to him. And then number 3, Scotty Scheffler. Number 7, Scotty Scheffler, the ball striker of all ball strikers. And so if he's keeping it in the fairway, which he had a hard time doing last week, but if he's keeping it in the fairway, then he's going to be scoring, and look out for Scotty Scheffler again.
Scotty Scheffler's got to find that putter, though. That is the only thing that's keeping him from being like just in absolute control right now.
But I mean, look what he's doing, and we're sitting here saying if he could only putt.
No, I know, like that's what I'm saying. But that's what I mean, like to be in absolute control. I mean, if he was putting just a little bit better right now, we're talking him having top 3 finishes in all of his appearances probably this year.
Probably. All right, number 6, Xander Schauffele. Again, I think he's on that trajectory, and he's going to break through and start winning pretty soon. Number 5, Tommy Fleetwood. He's 9th in my model. And so I saw that again. He's been playing well over in the DP World Tour. See if that translates. He finds lightning in a bottle this week. Look out. And then number 4, Ludwig Aubert, 8th in my model, 1st in my heart and my roommate's heart. She was like, that. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's Ludwig. But there you have Xander, Tommy, Ludwig, 6, 5, and 4.
Very nice. We have some guys crossing over here because my number 6 here, this guy wasn't crossover yet. My number 6 here is Victor Hovland. I went through and, like you said, I started my list by the numbers, and I went through and had to add some heart picks in there because, like I said, Victor Hovland the last few years has been crushing it here. His tournament history has been T20, T4, T5 the last 3 years, so that just seems something I got to keep riding there. Scotty Scheffler at number 5 for me as well, for all the reasons you just said. He's just playing too well right now. And then Rory McIlroy coming in at number 4 for me for similar reasons, good form. So Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy make up my 6, 5, and 4. And then my number 3, a guy that you just talked about. What am I, Canadian? Talked about Ludwig Aubert. And then coming in at number 2, Sahith Theegala, who, like I said, he played so well this past weekend. He just wasn't able to round out the full 4 rounds, but he's right on the cusp of this. So I like Sahith Theegala. And then number 1 for me, this was one of those ones where even though he didn't necessarily pop out in my numbers, the guy has just been absolutely on fire on this course the last 4 years, is Max Homa. He finished 2nd last year, T10 in 2022. He won it in 21, and he finished T5 in 2020. If you are looking for a horse for the course, as you said even earlier, Max Homa is that guy. He's a West Coast California player, and this is just the course that he can eat up on. And he seems to be in this like loose, confident mood right now, like kind of form right now, just from a mental standpoint too, that I think he can really crush this course this week. So that was Ludwig Aubert, Sahith Theegala, and Max Homa bringing home my 3, 2, and 1.
I'll reserve comment. 3, 2-1. Sepp Straka at number 3. He showed up in my model pretty high, and I trust it. He is when he's firing on cylinders, he's a ball striker. It sounds so cliche. He's a ball striker. It's like with those football coaches. Oh, we just need to play Texas football. Is that different than every other football that we're playing? No. Sepp Straka at number 3. Number 2, Colin Morikawa, for reasons that you said, and he's also been dangerous around here, West Coast guy. And then number 1, Victor Hovland. He has not been playing to form to date, but he wasn't so far out of form that I think he's strayed away from that FedEx Cup champion kind of form. There's the 4th form in one sentence that we saw earlier late last year. So Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Sepp Straka, 1, 2, and 3. There, give it to you backwards as well.
I love it. And once again, use those rankings as you please, whether it's on Underdog, whether it's FanDuel, DraftKings, or whether it's a fancy custom home league like Bud likes to play in with his buddies, going off of money. So use those to your liking. Let's talk about
use them at your own risk.
Or at your own risk, either way. But I feel like we've done fairly all right so far this year. So we've been hitting on more than we've been missing. It feels like. Let's talk about probably the thing that a lot of people, we haven't really touched on at all too much, that a lot of people are going to be curious about. How do you think Tiger does this week? I mean, I don't expect him to come out and win. Obviously, we haven't seen him play in a while. It's his first tournament of the year. But with the hype that we've been getting from behind the scenes that he's feeling great, even from himself, he's saying that the ankle's feeling better than ever, like that he's still working on the knee a little bit, but like he seems to be feeling great. He's saying all the right things to get people to have confidence in what he's going to come out and do. How do you think it actually translates into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
I don't know if he makes the cut, because there is a cut this week. The signature events have cuts for his tournament, Jack's tournament, and Arnie's tournament. The rest of them are no cut events. But I don't know if he makes a cut this week, because this is a stacked field. This is a hard course, and the weather doesn't look great, which is also, it's going to be a little chillier. That said, like you referred to, he knows his body. He seems to be confident. He seems to be ready to go, and he wouldn't put himself out there unless he knows he could compete, especially at his own tournament. Again, a place he's never won. But when we saw him at the Hero World Challenge, he played okay. He didn't do great. And he admitted afterwards, he goes, I'm rusty. He's like, it takes reps. And I think he's still in the reps kind of stage. That's why I think that we will see him win again. I think he'll win at least one more major. I don't think he's going to catch Jack. Shocker. I don't know if he's going to win 3 more majors, but I definitely think he'll snag another green jacket, because that seems to be the course that lends itself to those twilight year runs. U.S. Open is a young man's game, and I could see him winning an Open championship.
It all depends on the course that it lands on too.
Yeah, because those Open Championship courses are a lot of target golf, where if it's just about shaping and ball striking, then he could get around. But this week, I'd love nothing more than to see a little bit of a throwback, some magic. And if we see it, then look out, because he's the ultimate killer. Hence the Sunday Red. But did you hear actually where that came from? It wasn't like killer instinct. It's that his mom basically thought that was his. I think he's December. So what is he, a Capricorn? I don't know.
Don't even ask
Sagittarius, whatever. But or it might not have even been zodiac. It might have been something else. But apparently she thought that it was his power color, and it was associated with something you religious or astrological. Somebody can help me out there. But so it wasn't that it was a killer instinct. We turned it into that. But the whole red thing, and then to hear him talk about it was pretty cool, how he just took that, and then his mom forced him in it. And then all of a sudden, he ends up going to a place like Stanford, where they wear red on the final days of tournaments. And then obviously he just stuck with it. So it's Tiger. It's going to be fun to watch him. You never know, but no, I don't expect to see much out of him this week. I honestly do think that there's a guy that's on your list that's not on mine, and he was high in my rankings, but I'm a little jealous that I didn't play Rory McIlroy, because he cleaned up over in Dubai. He came out hot. He came out the gates hot at the AT&T Pebble Beach, and then had that clusterfuck of a drop. And then I know
we never really talked about that drop penalty he had. We just kind of glazed right past that.
Well, it would have been an interesting question, and it still is an interesting question. You kind of claimed ignorance of the rules. Like,
Yeah,
I remember when the rule changed in 2019. I don't remember it changing back, and you could see there was kind of that wincing of like, that's on me. I got to know that.
yeah.
But I also want to know who, did somebody not did somebody not give him the memo? I doubt these guys aren't given a heads up on rule changes and updates.
Oh, no.
So it almost looked like a politician who doesn't want to throw their staff under the bus, and it's like,
Yeah.
or a football coach who doesn't want to shit on his players. Like, that's on me. I got to figure out how to do better. And when I find out who that person is, I'm going to coach the hell out of them. But Roy McIlroy, and there was another guy, the guy I referenced earlier, Eric Cole. He showed up, I think, third or fourth on my model, and I'm fading him as the other of the fancy shows because I had to make room for Max Homa and for Justin Thomas and Scotty Scheffler. Those gut plays of guys who I'm like, the leagues that we're playing in, DK, you obviously can't stack up those three guys in any lineup. It's going to chew up all your capital, and there you go. But for where I play, that's why I put them down at the bottom, because I can't play, high priority. Even those three will probably be the same tier in my other league. So who knows? What about yourself? So, what do you expect to see out of Sunday Red?
I'm really 100% agree with you. I'm more so just excited to see him on the golf course again, just as a golf fan, just as a Tiger fan. This is that first tournament that I'm more so going to be watching how he moves around the course, especially if he does make the cut. And we get into the weekend where you said it looks like the when the weather comes in, that's going to be more so on the weekend when we have the chance of showers on Saturday and Sunday. But that's what I'll be looking for, because that's what we've seen in the past years of where his body has started to fail him, even when he's had somewhat successful or better than expected first and second rounds. It's been those weekend rounds where then it seems like his body stiffens up, he struggles to get around the course, and that's when it starts to affect his game. So I'm gonna, in this first tournament of seeing Tiger this year, I'm mainly just going to be watching his movement. I want to see him walk. I want to see him go up and down a couple of hills. I want to see if there's any limp after any big swings or any type of shot shaping that really requires him to torque his body in a way that might cause him some issues. So that's what I'm looking for. I agree with you. I don't expect him to make the cut. I don't expect him to make any sort of run here. So if he makes the cut, I'm going to be thrilled. And that just means I get to see how he does walking around in potential weather again. And it's more of a researching mission for me this weekend.
Before we land this plane, something we usually talk about this week is the Charlie Sifford Memorial exemption. And, these tournaments have sponsor exemptions. And what are you laughing about?
Just the way you set that up was perfect. I love it.
We always bring up the Charlie. Okay, so real quick, Charlie Sifford, first black guy on the PGA Tour, first minority to win when he won the 1967 Greater Hartford Open Invitational. Tiger named his son Charlie after Charlie, in honor of Charlie Sifford.
I did not know that.
After, yeah, Giggles McGiggleson. And so this specific kind of exemption usually goes to either a minority player. I think the last few years it's gone to a minority player, and this year it is going to Mr. Chase Johnson. Chase Johnson is your Charlie Sifford Memorial exemption this year. So look out for Chase. We're throwing him some love, and we hope that he performs up to the expectations. Actually, listening to this guy's interviews, he's great. He seems like a hoot, real gracious to be there. He knows what this means and the opportunity. So good luck to him. He's no schlep.
Just mix them together.
Whatever. So Chase Johnson, you've got the Divots and Pivots support. Chase Johnson, this year's Charlie Sifford Memorial exemption. Back to you in the studio.
And you've made it when you've gotten the love from the Divots and Pivots crew here. Speaking of that and loving this, that is going to do it for us tonight. It's been another wonderful Tuesday night spending it with all you fine folks here on That Sports Podcast. That's going to take some getting used to. That Sports Podcast Network.
TSPN.
TSPN.
We got to embrace it. That's right there in front of us. Yeah. TSPN.
This has been on TSPN. Just trying to make sure people know the name, but TSPN is 100% what I'm going to be calling it. But that is going to do it for us. The Genesis Invitational is here. Tiger's back. Enjoy the tournament this weekend. I will be away, so I'm going to probably catch the beginning and the end of this tournament. I'll miss the in between, but I hope it goes well. Hope you guys all have a fine weekend, and as always, stay classy.